Thank you for watching and tuning into the podcast today. I am here with Sam Stoddard, CEO of SimpleCitizen. Sam, tell us a little bit about yourself.
First off, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. I am Sam Stoddard. I'm one of the co-founders of SimpleCitizen and also the CEO. We started the company about 10 years ago. And what we do at SimpleCitizen is we are a digital visa and immigration solution. So we help individuals and families navigate the immigration process to apply for a visa, green card, or citizenship in the United States. And by using our technology and software, it's going to be easier, more efficient, less stressful than the more traditional routes of doing it yourself or working directly with brick and mortar immigration lawyer.
Awesome. You said you were a co-founder of SimpleCitizen. What inspired you to start this company?
So for me, this was born out of an experience I went through with my wife, who's originally from South Korea, as well as, my other co-founder, Ide, who's originally from Mexico. And the majority of people who work at SimpleCitizen are either immigrants themselves, have immediate family members, friends who have been through this process. It's something that is near and dear to our hearts and something that we have dedicated our lives to making better.
Awesome. All right, so today we're going to be asking questions, Sam, about the 75 country immigrant visa pause. You heard about this?
Haven't we all?
Would you mind telling us what exactly is the 75 country immigrant visa pause?
Look, we've all heard about this in the news. The current administration has done a lot of abrupt and usually pretty surprising moves related to immigration. And it's no exception when looking at the 75 country pause. And essentially what the Trump administration did, effective January 21st, 2026, is they put together a list of 75 countries where they are pausing issuance of new immigrant visas for people who are from a country or have citizenship, a country that is on the list. And the reason that they did this is primarily because of national security and public charge concerns. So that's a fancy way of saying that these 75 countries are countries that the current administration sees as, a national security threat, or countries where they have concerns about public assistance or public charge issues. And so this is the opportunity for the current administration and USCIS to say, hey, if you're from one of these countries, we're going to take a second look at your application rather than go through the normal process that we followed of adjudicating or approving or reaching a decision on a case. And we're going to go back and re-review, reassess these applications if you happen to be from one of the lucky 75 countries that are on that list.
Which countries are currently affected by this pause?
I don't know the exact list off the top of my head. I'm sure you could put it on the screen or whatever. But like I said, these are countries that the current Trump administration feels are either a national security threat or they have concerns around, or concerns related to public charge. Some of the countries that I can think of off the top of my head are, Brazil, Colombia, Ethiopia, Russia, you could say the usual suspects of the Trump administration.
Does this new policy affect student or tourist visas?
Okay, Matt, this is a great question. And in order to understand this, I'm going to back up a little bit, zoom out, and give you a little crash course in Immigration 101. So there's a difference between immigrant visas and non-immigrant visas. So immigrant visas are visas or immigration benefits that are designed for people that are going to come to the United States and live here permanently. So getting legal permanent residency or a green card or eventually become a citizen. Then there is this category of non-immigrant visas. NIV, for those of you who are immigration policy nerds or an immigration attorney yourself. And non-immigrant visas are the type of visas you hear about all the time in movies and TV and in the news or from friends and family, like an F1 student visa or the H-1B visa or a B1, B2 visitor visa. And these are meant for somebody coming to the United States for a set period of time, and then usually at the end of their stay, return home, whether that is 90 days, a couple years, or whether or not they can be renewed or extended multiple times, or if there's a limit on those renewals. Those are non-immigrant visas. So this 75 country pause policy or announcement does not apply to non-immigrant visas. This is specifically calling out the process or the application or the immigration benefits for immigrant visas. These are people who are either going to apply for legal permanent residency or citizenship. They have the intent of staying in the United States indefinitely and making this their permanent home.
Okay. Okay. Is there a way for people to avoid this restriction?
Well, it's not really a question of avoiding or however you're kind of phrasing the question. This is really USCIS and the current administration saying or giving you a peek behind the curtain on how they are processing applications, which, of all the things you can say about the current administration and immigration policy, letting us have some insight into their rationale, their logic, and the way that they are adjudicating or making decisions on cases should be welcomed. We can differ on whether or not this is the right way to approach this issue, but that aside, you have to understand that if you happen to be from one of the 75 countries and you are applying for a green card or citizenship, this doesn't necessarily mean that the USCIS or the current administration is going to take a process that used to be 6 months or a year, and now it's going to be 10 years. What this means is that they are going to exercise their right to take a second look at applications for individuals that are from countries where they have national security concerns or they have concerns around public charge, and they're going to take a second or third look, and they're going to pause things until they go through that process. So for a certain individual, that could mean that there is no slowdown or there's no perceived slowdown. But I think it's important to set expectations around this idea that if you happen to be from one of those countries, it may take longer than you would have hoped or you would have expected maybe a year ago or, in the past. The big takeaway for somebody who is going through this process, applying for a green card or citizenship, who happens to be from one of the 75 countries, is whether you are doing this by yourself or working with an experienced immigration attorney, or you're using a service like SimpleCitizen, you should focus on preparing the most comprehensive and complete application you can, making sure that you are transparent and truthful and providing all of the documentation as best you can. Remember to set expectations with yourself that this process may take longer than what it used to take a year ago or in the past.
Okay. So let's say someone is from one of these 75 countries. Should they still attend their scheduled visa interview at the embassy?
Look, I don't know how emphatically I have to say this or should say this, but if you have an appointment with USCIS or with your local embassy or otherwise, whatever you do, do not miss that appointment. Make sure you are there on time, preferably early. You're prepared, you're ready to go, and don't get distracted by whatever you see in the news or online. If USCIS or your local embassy is going to postpone, delay, or reschedule your appointment, they will contact you directly and they will postpone, delay, or reschedule your appointment. And they will do that with you directly. So again, just to make it as simple as possible, if you have an appointment that is scheduled with USCIS or your local embassy, make sure you are there, prepared, and on time, ready to go. Just because this announcement has been made that they're going to pause or slow down applications for people who are from these 75 countries, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to feel the effects or you are going to have to wait 10 years for you to get your green card approved or be sworn in as a new US citizen. So make sure you're watching your inbox, your mail, and responding quickly and appropriately to any requests from the U.S. government as it relates to your immigration application.
Awesome. Well, before we wrap up today, is there a message that you'd like to give to our listeners?
Thank you, Matt. Yes. Look, if you happen to be going through the immigration process, applying for a green card or citizenship, and are also from one of these 75 countries, do yourself a favor and sign up for Simple Citizen to get the guidance, support, and help that you need through this entire process. If you happen to know a family member or a friend or somebody else who is going through the immigration process and is from one of these 75 countries or from one of the 100 plus countries around the world, do them a favor and tell them to use Simple Citizen to get the guidance, help, support that they need from the beginning of the process through their green card, renewing the green card, all the way up to citizenship. They will thank you later.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. You heard the man. SimpleCitizen.com. Check it out. Keep watching. Keep learning. If you liked what you saw today, smash the like button, hit subscribe, leave a comment, and we'll see you next time. Peace.